So from my end, there's three core elements to a management rights business. So if you're on a committee and you're dealing with these things, this is what they are. So they're all tied together. So there's a caretaking component. So that's a contract for service for a fixed fee for fixed duties. So a manager is not an employee. So it's not like my marketing manager's Luke's up the back. So I can say to Luke, mate, I need you here at 7:15 on Thursday morning. I want to have this organised, blah, 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 and he's got to do it. In a management rights sense, what the manager will have is a contract that says the lawns must be mowed once a week. When they mow it is up to them. It's not for the committee to dictate that. So there's that caretaking side of things, then there's a letting side of things where there's a separate letting agreement or letting authorisation where the body corporate authorises the manager to let units on behalf of owners, and then it's up to individual owners to choose to engage the manager to do that. So the letting side of things is not automatic. So owners can choose if they want to use Ray White down the road or LJ Hooker, or they can use the on-site manager, it's up to them. And the last part is usually there's a property. So management rights is sort of sold as a business where you live in the business that you own. So normally there's a lot associated with it, or there's the right to use property, which might be an office area, storage sheds, occupation authority areas and so on. But in terms of, there's multiple variations on that, but they're the three core components. And certainly what we're seeing more and more these days for new management rights businesses is that property side of things is dropping off a little bit. There's caretaking, letting agreements, but no actual property with them. But so that's the core element of them. How are they created? Two ways. Firstly, committees can't change them. Committees can't enter into them. It's always got to happen at general meeting. So what will happen is when you're, if you've ever bought a unit off the plan, what you get is a whole bunch of disclosure documents that sets out the body corporate contracts, the strata manager, the levies, the bylaws, the entitlements, service contracts, management rights agreements. And what will happen is that the developer will cause the body corporate, when it comes into existence, to enter into those agreements. After that, once owners are actually in control, it's up to the body corporate itself, owners in general meeting, ordinary resolution, to enter into agreements or to bury them. So it always needs that endorsement from owners. And what you will find is that from a management rights perspective, there's two different, from a residential living perspective, there's two different styles of module that your building might be regulated by. So the way the legislation works is we have the BCCM Act, Body Corporate and Community Management Act. That piece of legislation applies to every body corporate in Queensland, and that sets some very big ticket rules. Underneath that, we have various modules, and the two modules that you'll see from a residential living perspective will be standard accommodation. So that inside those modules are the various rules around spending limits, committee decision making, general meetings, proxies, all those sorts of things. But the big difference from a management rights perspective is that under a standard module, a management rights agreement can have a term of up to 10 years, whereas under an accommodation module, the agreement can be for a term of up to 25 years. So whether the body corporate's actually granted that is something else entirely, but that's the statutory maximum terms that they can be for. So you can have accommodation module agreements that only have 10 years to run. That does happen, and it comes down to, again, what the manager and the body corporate agreeing to what the terms of that agreement are actually going to be. But what these are contracts. So it's not, it's no different to me signing a contract to buy your house for $500,000. I can't turn around 6 weeks later and say, actually make that $450,000. They're binding documents on both parties that can't be varied without both parties agreeing to them. So, and they're very long-term contracts. So that's a very big part for me of the context of understanding what a management rights business is, because they're just not something a body corporate can walk away from. And absolutely, some bodies corporates have thrust upon them agreements that aren't necessarily suited to them, but that's the legal relationship you've got. It's not something you can necessarily change. So living inside that understanding is a very big ticket and starting point to understand how to deal with management rights. So, in a management rights sense, they can be sold at any time. So what happens is that they are businesses, they have capital value. Normally that unit, the letting appointments, the caretaking agreements and so on are all sold to a buyer. We specialise in that transactional side of things for buyers and sellers, as well as helping bodies corporates deal with assignments, so we see both sides of the fence. And ultimately it's up to a manager when they sell as much as body corporate sometimes pressure them to in the right circumstances. And from a committee perspective, the really important thing to understand, it's not like a job interview. So again, when I go to advertise for a marketing manager and I get 15 applications and somehow Lukey makes it through the net and comes down to the final interview, I get to pick which one I want. In a management rights sense, that's not the way it works. The default position is the body corporate's got to say yes to the buyer unless there's good reasons to say no. And certainly, so it's not a job interview in that sense, but as much as we tell clients when they're buying management rights, treat it as one. Go in there and impress, because you never get a better chance to make a first impression. You're only going to get one chance to make a first impression, so get it right. But the committee can't say no unless there's good reasons. And certainly, that's not unreasonably withholding consent is one of those wonderful legal phrases where lawyers get to play around and grow. So what that means, if the buyer had a criminal conviction for GBH in the last couple of years, absolutely no. If they got a criminal conviction for trust account fraud, absolutely no. And then from there it cascades down. And certainly, so in a legal sense, that's what the position is. What we're seeing at the moment, and what we're seeing, I suppose, with everything. So management rights produce a return on investment subject to how you slice and dice it in terms of including the real estate or not, and prices and all that sort of stuff. Somewhere sort of 12 to 20% or thereabouts in terms of overall investment. So in this low interest rate environment, sort of what happens with the China share market today and all the rest of it, people are buying them because they produce a solid return and it's secure. So the market, in a management rights sense, has been more buoyant than it's been for me since pre-GFC. So the run up to 2008, very buoyant market, and it's certainly been back to that again. And maybe there's certainly, you only have to look around to see all of the buildings that are coming up out of the ground, townhouse complexes, and every single one of those has management rights with them. So every day the market grows. But the other thing we're getting is far more informed bodies corporate, and I suppose you guys are the starting point for that in terms of coming to things like this. If you go back a decade, a management rights assignment used to really be a tick and flick. Sometimes people didn't have interviews, sometimes people didn't even bother. But what we've seen, I don't know if you've seen this, Ashley, in terms of your team, I've seen more committees say no to the assignment of management rights in the last 6 months than I've seen in the last 10 years. And that's because some of the buyers are very unsophisticated, and committees are generally becoming far more informed about their rights and taking a far more active interest in what's actually necessary for their building. So not simply accepting what's served up. So we've seen no on a couple of things. One of those was probably unreasonable, two were reasonable. The other thing we're seeing quite a bit of is training for managers. So if you've got, and this becomes more in the context of a manager who you as a body corporate might not necessarily get on with. So one of the things a body corporate's entitled to under the legislation is to understand the training that's going to be given to the proposed purchaser. If the vendor has done an appalling job, we don't actually want them to train the buyer. So there's some consultants around now that have put together training programs that will actually address and educate buyers around what they actually are going to need to do. Who've been in management rights, one guy in particular we do a lot of work with, who's owned a swag of them, but by the same token understands where committees comes from. So he'll wear both hats, and his job really, and that's a little bit what I'll talk about in a minute, is bringing everyone together to manage expectations. Because, and that's the same thing from a body corporate perspective, as much as you might be lumbered with an unfair agreement, you've got to live within the framework of that agreement. You can't simply go and change it willy-nilly, change the rules on people, because that's legally where you're at. So, so accepting that commercial reality and then shaping it to work the best way it can for you is sometimes just the reality of life, as unfortunate as that might be. So, so when it comes to assignments, what you've got on your seats from us is a committee's guide to consent to the assignment of management rights. So I wrote that. I mean, I don't know how many management rights assignments. Well, we'd probably be involved in the settlement of maybe 10 to 15 management rights transactions a month, purchasers, sellers, bodies, corporates. So that is, I've written it, have a read, take it away. If you've got any issues, happy to have questions. But really, from a body corporate perspective, it's really a wait and see. What will happen is that normally, once the management rights are sold, you may or may not know that it's happened, that there's sort of, the market is not necessarily visible like this with REA, where you see a big sign, distributed address and all that sort of stuff. But normally what will happen is, at the very minimum, once the contract gets unconditional, you'll be served up correspondence via your strata manager to say, hey, we've sold the management rights, or we've sold the management rights, here's the buyer's details, here's the proposed legal documentation. At that stage, you need to wheel in the lawyers to protect you. And in a body corporate sense, some strata managers still don't do this, but the legal fees are paid for by the parties to the assignment, so you effectively get free legals. So from a body corporate perspective, there's no reason not to engage lawyers on an assignment. So yeah, that's sort of signing management rights, but then this is probably one of the bigger issues, so dealing with poor performance. So and this is born out of experience, personally, professionally, you can always go the Armageddon option. The Armageddon option is breach notices, go over the top, threat to terminate, bring on World War III, but there is no reason to start there. It's again, back inside the framework, and I'll go forward one slide. I'll tell you why. This is the joy of knocking these slides together actually without speaking to it. So in a management rights sense, the value of these businesses is tied to the existence of the management rights agreements. So the management rights unit will be worth the same as what any other 2-bedroom unit or 3-bedroom unit in a complex is going to be worth. The management rights business is tied back to the tenure of the agreements and the income that's derived from them. So if you've got a business with a net profit of $100,000 with an agreement for a term of 10 years, that business might be worth $400,000. So it's like a 25% return on investment, or in industry parlance, a 4 times multiplier. But if those agreements are terminated, that business is worth 0. So in the context of, and that's what a breach notice is saying to a manager, we're going to seek to terminate your agreements, which automatically is going to position everyone with backs to the wall, everyone lawyering up, everyone spending money on legal fees, trying to get to a particular outcome. And what we see, particularly in terms of our practice more often than not, this is for body corporates or managers, is that we get the file after the breach notice has been served. And at that stage, all bets are already off. It's the most serious thing you can do in a management rights sense. So from our end, helping bodies corporates deal with performance issues is understanding that legal framework, understanding the commercial framework, because once you start throwing punches, it's very hard to retract them, and everyone's positioned. So you've got to be a bit more strategic in terms of dealing with performance issues, because what you're saying to that manager when you issue that breach notice is, we're trying to torch that $400,000 investment that you've made, which anyone is going to fight back on, as much as some managers don't actually understand what the consequences are. The other thing is that most banks will have lent on management rights businesses. Very healthy market in terms of lending, maybe roughly 60-70% of the overall value of the asset. So the other thing you're saying to the bank is that when you're going to terminate those agreements, the bank's security is worthless. So you're suddenly fighting banks then as well, potentially. So it's not something you want to do. And the other thing that happens from a body corporate perspective, and you talk about where does my money go, as little of it as possible on legal fees is what my view would be. But you've got spending limits, you've got a budget. Without doubt, one of these proper fights can go into tens of thousands of dollars, which you won't have in the budget. So it's a really, before you go into breach notices and that sort of thing, those 3 things are the things that people need to understand. So dealing with poor performance is, as I said, Armageddon option, and that's not to say you don't go that route. You might need to go that route. And that might be the end way, you have to finish it. But for me, that's never a way to start. It's a matter of understanding what it is. So what I say to people, and again, making you the example of the day, Lukey, if Lukey's not delivering for me in terms of what I need him to do, I've got to manage him around that. And yes, I get remunerated for that. I'm a director of the firm and I've got those responsibilities and those sort of things. You guys as committee members are doing this volunteers. But the unfortunate nature of, the nature of the legal relationship you've got is that simply belting people is not going to be the best way to get the outcome out of them. So when Lukey's not doing what I want him to do, we need to catch up the coffee, I've got to manage him around it, I've got to help him understand what I'm trying to achieve, what I'm looking for, probably position a little bit so we have agendas to talk about things when we're running through issues. It's not a complete random me blowing up when he doesn't give me what I'm wanting because I haven't told him expressly what I'm wanting, and all that sort of stuff. So for me, with a management rights issue with respect to performance, treat them as if they're your staff. Don't abuse them. Don't blow up. Don't send them emails 10 o'clock at night saying you're an idiot, which we've seen, probably after a couple of glasses of red. And try to work with them, as unfortunate as that might be, and as much as you absolutely should not have to do that. But again, this is the nature of the legal relationship we've got and the reality of the world in which we live. That is going to be a much better outcome trying to start that way and trying to conclude it that way than lobbing straight into breach notices about you haven't cut the laws, we're going to seek to terminate your agreement. Because at that stage, there is just no coming back from it. So that really, for me, is probably, if you've got to take away today from me, it's that. It's Armageddon option is a last resort. Management of expectations, educate them, and look, people sometimes get sold businesses they should not be buying. They sometimes buy into an industry they should not be buying. And what I say to resident managers is this is a people management business. If you want to pick fights, draw lines in the sand, argue over matters of principle, and all that sort of stuff, this is not the place for you. Because in this game, and this is life in general, you're going to have to roll with some punches. And if you can't roll with punches, then find something where you're a protected species. You've got all the workplace protections and you're the federal government, whatever it might be. Because the real world doesn't work that way. The real world's going to involve having to give and take and negotiate and wear some things that you shouldn't actually wear. And that's part of the education process sometimes. And even, you look at the word management rights, it's not actually a right, it's almost a privilege. So helping sort of set expectations early, manage those expectations on an ongoing basis, not demand things, and then communicate. That for me is the way to start dealing with performance issues. And it might be that you can't get there, and it might be that you've got an absolute bronco with your management rights who simply hasn't read the agreement, is refusing to provide the service, and you're not left with any other option to go a little bit harder. But to me, that's last resort, not first resort. So I've spoken about that in terms of the value. So moral story, I think you've probably got. So this is the discussion I've had with plenty of committees over the years in terms of we want to get rid of this guy, it's like, or guy or girl, or stop. This is what you need to understand. Because it's not an easy process. They're not an employee. They've spent a substantial amount of money. They've probably borrowed a substantial amount of money. There's a bank involved. So bury all of that commercial reality in the background. In theory, what you're asking for, you can do. In practice, it's going to be bloody difficult, bloody expensive and stressful. And from I say to clients all the time, absolutely, you come in, can I sue them? Yes, you can, no problems. But what I'll finish with is there will be blood all over the floor and none of it will be mine. It'll be yours. And you, in a committee sense, are representative of the owners. You're spending body corporate money. It's not your own money. You should treat it like it's your own money. And don't get me wrong, some lawyers will charge straight in and belt people in a way that go. I just don't think that's what clients should ever be doing. And the other thing that comes with litigation or dispute of any kind is, leaving aside the dollar cost, is the time cost. You guys are all volunteers. And we as lawyers can't we just can't do it because we think it's right. We've got to come to you, we've got to lay out advice, we've got to give you your options, we've got to get instructions, we've got to have meetings, you've got to understand the position. We don't run off willy-nilly and make decisions for you. And you will have to invest time as a committee and individually to understand what's going on, deal with the pain, managing the owners, and all that sort of stuff. So it is a stressful exercise to be involved in any dispute. And even in a management rights sense, again, so if you don't like me, that's easy. You never come to something where I'm speaking again and you never have to see me. Easy. Unsubscribe from my newsletters, you're done. Higginson is out of your life. From a management rights perspective, that's never going to happen because they're living there and you're living there. You're going to see them walking around. And that physical discomfort of walking into people that you're actively fighting in a legal sense is not a pleasant place to be. So those overlays for me are really important things from a committee perspective you need to understand before you start charge on trying to belt people. So I suppose, as you can see, I'm a bit of a lover, not a fighter, as much as when we need to punch on, we can punch on, but punching on is the very last resort you can do. So, they're so find a way to solve it. And that solving is going to be giving ground on some things. That's just the way negotiation works. And at that stage, what you find is the management rights and strata industry is fairly insular from a legal perspective. The reality is that there might be, across both disciplines in terms of management rights and body corporate, maybe 10 lawyers, law firms that probably do the bulk of the work. So we all tend to know each other, we all tend to know how these things should finish. And barring one or two, generally people can be pretty pragmatic in terms of trying to get an outcome. So the lawyers and negotiating it is a way to do it early, but you need to understand strategically, like anything, which goes back to my sort of first year of articles, which was 1992. Now where are we now? Where do we want to get to? And how do we get there? And the answer in the how. So if the how is issuing a breach notice and belting people straight up, that's great. But that to me is not normally going to be the way to do it. So that's my presentation this morning. So what we do is that I've got newsletters I push out probably every 2 weeks, one on management rights, one on body corporate issues, so you've probably got a vested interest both in terms of both groups. Subscribe online, there might be a subscription form in there. No obligation comes with that. You can unsubscribe if you don't like it. But from my end, I write those with what's coming across my desk on any given point in time. So if you want to hop on our website and have a look, you can see the ones I've written over the last decade, really, on a range of different topics. So yeah, that's it for me.